the Virtual Brothers continuing.
And this scene,
the Nasrudin Brothers.
With the titanium fucking machine of tomorrow where the chick's orgasmic moans, you know, or like the bass line for the Tibetan Gregorian chanters.
On tour.
Which energizes the entire city of Kathmandu. Because Psy is the new electricity, man. Works for me.
We are the Virtual Brothers returned.
Right. Dare to be interesting. So the old TV series Psy Factor was hosted by Dan Aykroyd, because, you know, funny man has an interest in the objectively paranormal. But what's cool about the leading edge of parapsychological research is it's not only about a rigorous attempt to isolate foolishness from legitimate objective paranormal phenomena, but it's an investigation into the nature of consciousness. And what that takes you to the core psyosphere premise, which is that this is the other world. Life is already uncanny and miraculous. You're just conditioned to a secondhand program, so you're desensitized to that existential reality, which is what forms of contemplation are supposed to reveal to you anyway.
This is the new yoga. Well, how would you define our yoga now? This is a yoga of the mind more than anything.
Well,
and the body.
I would define it thusly. What we're running this, which is a multi-purpose footage stream, and we have our audio, textual, visual products. Well, it's all run through this kind of contextualization. You know, what you usually have, science is over here, religion's over here, entertainment's over here, some kind of art's over here.
It's all compartmentalized.
Yeah, and there's a kind of laxness to that.
What is that?
Yeah, you know, if you're sensitive to core, you go, why is this kind of sprawled around? I mean, yeah, of course you got to emphasize your various communities, and the better, I might add, the better proponents in those various disciplines do tend to be interdisciplinary. You know, because that's where evolutionary consciousness, which is only going to the always already, but the transcendent is not stasis, so emergent properties has to do with the nature. This is the dignity of the individual in the dualistic realm, the particularity of creative emergence that's grounded in the universal and infinite and always already. And the reason it needs to be, you could be grounded in that infinite grace and be a beam of light and not add anything to various formats per se, but that's Eastern. In the West, we like doing things because we're so fucking busy to the point of creating problems. We should really infuse our busyness with actual penetrating wisdom and have what we do be based on that. So that's why I emphasize that at this point in time, to take on the responsibilities of the editorial other and not be a crackpot, you need to do your homework. So a psyosphere branding consideration, you know, of any kind of product for submission production, it meets not only the, you know, a fairly well versed consideration in terms of popular elements and literary history, but all importantly, it has to touch on the emphasis on what evolutionary psi means in everyday consciousness. What it means to have an attitude that everything is inherently miraculous.
Because it really is.
It really is. And because you knew this intellectually, intuitively, and you knew that emotionally you're dealing with this karmic program of cause and effect, and it doesn't seem to be quite caught up with that consideration. That's why I said in the email, all my life I've been trying to get my emotional, practical adaptation up to the level of the ongoing intuition. And in the process, you find more muscular and interesting and differentiated ways of expressing that, because it should never... The problem with New Agey stuff is it doesn't necessarily do the work. You can't put a lot of energy into alternative hypotheses without being prepared to subject it to pragmatic investigation. And if it's not important enough a consideration to put that amount of time and energy into it, you should essentialize what your assertions are. You see what I'm saying? Because you should be willing to subject everything to and the beauty of source Buddhism, apart from external trappings in the world, has been pointed out by more than one writer. Is, I mean, Sam Harris said the idea of a Dalai Lama being at a conference with a Christian ecclesiastic is like a physicist being with a Kalahari tribesman or something. It's just not even the same ballpark. That's because that's interesting. That's because the Buddhist stream is subjective science. It's observation of mind and psychic contents. And it's exactly what Western science needs to complete itself.
And being an engineer, I'm really grounded into the practical, so to speak. But I'm always looking for ways to make things easier for ourselves. I think that's the main job of an engineer, is to make things easier.
And become psychoengineering at a certain point. So Sciosphere is concerned with psychoengineering.
Right. So it's not a major shift for me. I'm already there. I'm already thinking that way. That we need to really engineer our own attitudes more than anything about how we look at things. How we take in things, how we accept things happening around us, because things are always going to happen in your life. And how are you going to react to them?
Exactly.
What are you going to say to them? What are you going to feel about it?
There you go. That's
you
where
have no choice about what hits you, but you sure have a choice about how you want to let that hit you.
That's where all the real
attitude.
You're spot on. That's where all the real work.
And that's only work there is, I think.
You're right. That's it.
And the only good work.
That's right. That's right.
So really, there is no excuses. If you're giving excuses for things happening, poor me, I've had this happen. You're still responsible, but you're
at effect. You're at effect, and you're not assuming responsibility for cause or the acausal. You're not
assuming responsibility for yourself, and your responsibility to yourself is that you shall accept this the way, in the right attitude. And if you're not accepting the right attitude, you're wrong.
Yeah, change it or change your attitude according to the situation.
Right.
Whatever looks good. At any rate, if you're an intelligent being, how much pathological of an axe can you possibly have to grind? I mean, that's a lot of work.
I don't want to grind an axe forever. I just want to enjoy.
There's a reason why classic ascetic traditions kind of like celibate. They shut down on the psychosexual. For those of us who really like the psychosexual, that just means that you have to contextualize the psychosexual in this platform wisdom. That's what makes it. That's why the shamanic note kicks in out of the desire to be psychosexually engaged. It's almost like you want to, because you want it. It's the pleasure emotionally, sensationally, and potentially spiritually in that mating process, in that relational process. But it is also having a living connection to wanting to explore those themes as an artist and business. Because these are huge issues in the world. That point, the part of mainstream religion that is repressed psychosexuality, that is unintelligent psychosexually. Well, I got to tell you this one. This is great. Sam Harris. He's pointing out that this otherwise educated Islamist willing to participate in a suicide bombing, and the classic Quran promise of 88 or whatever. Virgins in the afterlife is part of the deal for, crushing the infidel. And he says, if you look at he was examining the root of the word uris, and he was tilting and said, you know what, actually, this means raisins. So I'm thinking this heroic fucking, Quranic warrior in the afterlife. Here's your handful of raisins, dude. Good job.
That's your reward.
Muhammad is really
No
pleased.
80 virgins for
Yeah.
you.
Sorry, it was all an etymological error. That's funny. Raisins instead of virgins.
Oh,
So if any-
poor guy. He got
yeah.
his raisins.
So if there are
He's got
any,
his 80
if
raisins.
there's any religiously suicidal Islamists out there, just remember, it could just be a handful of raisins for crashing another tall building. So think about this. This is our version of faith and reason here. Bill Moyers has been talking. He talked to a Buddhist monk, female Buddhist monk this time. You know, it's most boring when it's a believer versus a non-believer because that's an unexamined arbitrariness on either front. You know, most guys, the only person who does this with the word God is Adi Da that I'm aware of. And my version of it is that God is, it's an illegitimate question to ask whether it is or is not a God. Because God, at the end of the day, with all its ramifications, is a default term for a felt mystery. And unless you're obtuse, you know that existence is mysterious. If you don't know that, you're just stupid. That's all God is awareness. Your God is your awareness. You got nothing else. You're just playing with your head. You got nothing else but your fundamental awareness. Where did that come from? That's not enough for you? That's because you're asleep if that's not enough for you.
That's the old
You're
Gurdjieff
chasing
asleep.
you're chasing something mechanically, a dream, like a dog chasing its tail. If you cannot settle into naked awareness, and at least the firm concept of it, so you're always close to that consideration, because that's the eye of the storm. That's what gives dignity and grace to activities. You know, its source. We live in a simulacral world. It sorely needs.
I've always felt that this world was less real than the world of thought and dreams.
What's the result of that? So it's incomplete. So of course it's less real because the realm of thought and dreams is the source of what you see around you.
Here I'm looking at a 5-year-old, and I'm looking at this, you know, my dreams are more real to me than the world I'm in. I said, what is that? And I was asking my questions even at 5.
Mhm.
Why is my dreams more real than this world is?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the colors are more real, the actions more real, the meanings more real, and the things that happen, they don't have that long-lasting effect. You know, I mean, once you realize what's happened and it's gone, it happens. I even got killed in one of my dreams one time. I said, oh, that's nice.
But that's a dialogue.
Yeah.
It's not that.
No.
That personal inner world is inherently more real than what your objective experience is going to be. It's just that there has to be a dialogue there for you to come up with a thoroughly integrated experience of reality.
And I thought you could fly, you know, too. I mean, maybe you can still fly, but I mean, I always thought you could fly. All you have to do is just think about it and you fly, you know. Sort of like the Peter Pan theory of flying.
Are those assertions in various shamanic texts of, you know, suddenly appearing somewhere else or shape-shifting or that sort of thing?
So there is more reality a lot of times in the world we're in, and yet we tend to embrace this world more like it was the real world.
There was a yogi documentary that in one of the early Adi Da magazines called The Laughing Man. They called him the holographic man because he was particularly good at projecting aspects subtle versions of himself that were present, that helping with problems. He would pick up signals like little distress calls. I mean, he was like a spiritual 911 center or something, right?
Picking up all these emergencies.
Yeah, and he could
and
project his subtle version of himself to would help to harmonize the energy to change the situation from being a bad situation, change the energy dynamics of it or something. You know?
I think that's definitely a reality.
Yeah, that seemed pretty well documented, and that You think about that, and that's just like the psychic enhancement of when you're in touch with somebody on the World Wide Web.
Think about
Right?
dowsing. I'm a dowser. Did you know I can douse?
Really, you got a feel for the underground.
I know how to douse.
Wow.
You know what? We had a water pipe that I had to find. And we knew it was within about 300 feet in this big field. They did say, well, it was built a while ago and it's asbestos. So you can't pick it up with a metal detector. But we know it's here somewhere because water gets out to the street. Here's the valves. You can see the valves here in the street.
Right.
We see the tank up there. And so what I did was I took a couple rods. I had some coat hangers I pulled out of my car and made them into L shapes. And I just started walking by, and I thought about the pipe that I'm looking for, and the rods crossed, and I put a stake every time the rods crossed. Put a stake and went back, and moved over and came back. And then I had my surveyor, who was also a dowser. I had him take a different path.
Is there some kind of magnetic corollary to water sources or something? What is it that you're sensing?
It's all got to be psychological. It's all
Parapsychological.
It's all parapsychological because you can tell yourself to douse for gold.
Congratulations, you just added to the psi themes of the day.
Parapsych.
Psi, baby, psi.
All right. Well, I'm a dowser, and I found that water. We had to dig it up with a backhoe, and we couldn't break it because if you touch it with a backhoe, it's broken. It's asbestos. And it's very brittle. And so we got down to where we within a foot of where I thought it was, and we had to dig it out with a shovel. Exactly on, dead nuts on.
More face. Get more face in there.
And that shows you that I have some talents even beyond my understanding.
Well, you're supposed to. Classic astrologically. So, congratulations for being classically astrologically correct.
They want me to go douse for another job. They says, you're going to have to wait till Monday when I'm done with this other job I'm working.
Aquarius is really the sign of,
Of water?
No. It's a water carrier.
I know.
It's a fixed air sign.
Well, that's interesting about a water carrier.
It's the sign of avant-garde science and art.
Really?
Sure.
With my Aquarius moon, that probably helps.
And all my Leo and Virgo stuff's in the 11th house, which is the house of Aquarius. And Age of Aquarius means that, it's all about grounding this stuff at the level of scientific cognition. They have an amazing track record in literature and the sciences, really, Aquarian, and because it's detached mind, it doesn't have anything to gain politically. It's purely into the inquiry,
Let's do some more of this writing dialogue, like you said. We got to start writing together. The best way I see of doing that is maybe even doing on an email type of thing or somewhere
jigsaw puzzle pieces.
we just start doing it.
You could just keep an assembly line thing going. This is for that. This is for that. This is for that. I like. For me, I'm always doing 3 or 4 variations on the side theme anyway, and that's what this amounts to. You got your novelistic thing. You have to take into account. See, here's the thing. You had a memorial mythic historical drive, and it's propelled by a largely unexamined scripture. See, I'm propelled by the deconstruction of scripture. See, that's how different that is. But they're definitely connected,
I think we could connect them, merge them, meld them together.
I'm for optimal extensions that just simply connect back to source. That's all. I'm looking at stuff and I go, why does the thing that's connected to source? The thing that's connected to source has to establish a certain enigma to be true to the vibe, but there are various ways to extend its reach. So it doesn't have to be either or. There's where esoteric does not making an exoteric bridge. And exoterica without esoterica is useless. It doesn't matter how much money they give you for it. It's functionally useless in terms of psychological evolution. That's just a fact. It's a distraction. So that's the kind of austerity that's different with me. about what writing is. I think scripture, in other words, scripture can extend into all the known formats, but it should be grounded in a deconstructive sense of scripture that's basically based on the attitudes of the ancient Gnostics, which are inherently antinomian, allegorical, satirical, sexually liberationist.
Let's do a light dialogue.
And insight over belief oriented. All the tools and inclinations about text were already there. Marcion, Valentinus, 200 AD Gnostics. And then you had these characters who were ripping off Gnostic texts, literalizing them, and basically forging the monopoly money of of literalist Christianity, the greatest hijack of all time. It doesn't make any difference whether Jesus slept with Mary. The greatest hijack of all time has to do with literalism versus Gnostic allegory. It's classic.
Well, let's do a dialogue and just run with it. I mean, we'll do it on tape type of thing.
You do some of it here.
Yeah.
The more you ask yourself without slowing down the movement while you do what you do, the more room there is, line by line, paragraph by paragraph, page by page, for surprise and mystery. It's one of the tensions between short and long form. Definitely is in terms of value structure.
I don't need your favors. I don't need your skin. Form so fast exploding. Feel so shape I'm in.